Breaking news out of the Toronto Maple Leafs camp. Well, breaking in terms of the news we thought was coming and expected to be coming has finally become official today, and that is John Klingberg has gone on LTIR and will miss the remainder of the season. So, discussing what this means for the Maple Leafs this season, what they do to replace him, how they can do that, and how this might benefit the Leafs. Welcome back to Third Man In. I'm Zack Phillips, and in today's video, as I mentioned, we're going to be discussing John Klingberg, the fact that he's finally put on LTIR, and what the Leafs might do going forward here, because there's a lot of options, to be honest. A lot of information has now come out in regards to what's going on with this team. We've kind of got some certainty here in some of the money situation, what's opened up. But before we get into today's video and before we get into today's contents, I do want to let people know about 50% of the people who watch these videos have not subscribed here to this channel. So if you're watching right now and you haven't already, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get notified every time we go live or more videos just like this one drop. But over 50% of the people who watch these videos haven't subscribed. Come on, help a brother out. Hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get back to 2,000 subscribers here on this channel. So let's get into the contents of today's video and start first and foremost with the news that we figured would be coming at any given moment. It just never was official until today, and that is that John Klingberg will be out for the remainder of the season. He will be undergoing season-ending hip surgery, which, as Jonas Siegel was tweeting out, is about a 5 to 6 month recovery process and all of that. Let's be honest, first and foremost, this is really unfortunate and sad for John Klingberg. In terms of what went on with his career, starting in Dallas, he gets offered a contract. He feels like it's not enough. And then it's like the injuries start to pile on and it starts to wear him down. He doesn't have the seasons he expects. After that, it starts to deteriorate. He says, I'm going to prove it. I'm going to go to Anaheim. Doesn't work out for him there. They trade him to Minnesota. Doesn't work out for him in Minnesota. The Leafs take a flyer on him in the summer and say, hey, we'll pay you for 1 year, give you an opportunity to prove it if you come here. We think you can still be that defenseman. You think you can still be that defenseman. So we'll give you the 1 year deal. And it just never really worked out. Now, I don't know if this is just his play deteriorating, if he just never really was that incredible of a defenseman, and maybe the offense was just always so much better on the other side that it just really elevated our opinions of him and what we thought John Klingberg was, or if these injuries have just truly worn him down over time and just really taken away from his ability to be John Klingberg, which is entirely a possibility and feels like that's actually likely what went on here. But nonetheless, John Klingberg at $4.15 million hitting against the Leafs cap has now been moved off and onto the LTIR. This is $4.1 million that is freed up for the remainder of this season for the Maple Leafs to go out and use to acquire whatever it is that they so desire. Now, quickly before moving on from this as well, according to Cap Friendly, the Leafs now have $14.46 million in their LTI salary pool that they can use for the remainder of the season, which is a significant amount of money. And this is also, by the way, money that you can bank on being there because Muzzin, not coming back, Matt Murray, not coming back, and John Klingberg announced today, not coming back. Those are three guys you can guarantee on this Leafs team not coming back. So that actually genuinely does open you up for the opportunity to go out and spend some of this money and bring in guys that can actually play within the cap, because you know for sure you're not going to have to bring these guys in and move other guys out later for those guys to come back. They're off. They're gone. They're gone from this roster for the remainder of this season at least. So there's a bunch of money that's now being opened up. And I do want to quickly touch on one thing. There's going to be a lot of people, especially guys like who I took the tweet from, Jonas Siegel, who you hear on Toronto media and stuff, who go out and just blame Brad Treliving for all of these things. I implore you to do one thing. If you think Brad Treliving did such a terrible job with the defense, fire away in the comments of this video what was so drastically different about his defense than Kyle Dubas's. Look at the playoff defense that they had last year against Tampa and against Florida and compare it to the defense that they opened the season with this year. I'm not talking about the roster right now. I'm talking about the roster on opening day. Do that. Do some of that homework. I know what the difference is. I've done the research. I've looked. Let me know in the comments if you know what the difference is between the two decors. Pretty interesting, especially for those Dubas lovers who sit there and say, well, Treliving screwed the defense. Go and take a look. I will say this in defense of Brad Treliving. $4.15 million was probably a little bit too much money. But the upside on John Klingberg was so high. If he came here and he performed at the level that they thought he could and get back to being the player that he was, you were going to have an opportunity with this guy to run your number one power play, potentially outperform what the Edmonton Oilers did last year in what was a historically good power play in the NHL, and just have offensive production out of your defense that you haven't really had in that recent of memory. Now, I know people are going to say, well, Morgan Rielly's playing really well offensively. I get that. All I'm saying is John Klingberg peak offensive efficiency, especially with this lineup, would blow people away far beyond what they can imagine Morgan Rielly can do with this offense right now. I genuinely think that if things had worked out, if he was healthy, if this seems to be the issue, or if maybe he could just have gotten his game back on track, he was going to be in a position to be a massive difference maker with this team. Now, on the flip side, yes, there's downside. At $4 million, it's a little bit expensive. As I said, I think it probably was a little bit too much. But what he did to ensure everything here and that there was a way out of it was make it a one-year deal. And people often forget that because what it does for the Leafs, it's only 1 year. What it does if you need to trade him and get out of it, it's only 1 year to whoever's acquiring him. If you need to buy him out, it's only 1 year. Like, there's all these things that basically saves them and helps make this a little bit easier to digest. And the final thing I'll say on the Klingberg situation with his injury, I know that a lot of people are going to come here maybe from other teams, say Senators fans who constantly freak out about the Leafs LTIR usage. The NHL is required to approve the LTIR usage. The NHL is very, very buttoned up now after the Tampa Bay situation about the usage of the LTIR. They don't want teams circumventing this cap because I'll tell you what, if they wanted teams to go over the cap, they would just increase it. They don't want this to become a thing because it would ruin what they want as an NHL, as the NHL, as an organization. They don't want the Rangers, the Leafs, the Habs, the Bruins, the Lightning, etc., teams that making money to push up above the cap and exploit this because then it just ruins what they have in these other teams where they're not going to get that revenue to give to the Arizonas, to I don't even know. Arizona is the best example I got. That's really the one team that's struggling the most. The Panthers, I guess, but like teams like that. But kudos to the Panthers. They're starting to fill that arena. But that's the point. So don't go and jump on the Leafs here for doing this. The NHL legitimately needs to approve it. So if you got a problem, take it up with the NHL. This isn't a Leaf-specific thing. Now, final thing to close out this video is kind of what I think goes forward with this team and where they're at. I genuinely don't think anything really changes for this team moving forward, and that's more in terms of what their needs are and what they're trying to address. This tweet came out from Jonas Siegel where he said, Brad Treliving says the Leafs have already investigated trades on D. Would we like to help ourselves there? Sure. But having said that, what's the cost and what's the availability of players out there that ultimately can come in and make a difference? So I like this for a multitude of reasons. First and foremost, Treliving's not going to force a trade for the sake of forcing a trade. Second of all, Treliving's not going to go out there and overspend on a guy just for the sake of getting that guy here. Even if he thinks that guy can make an impact, is he going to just go and kick away the farm? Is he going to give away all these young prospects? It seems like he's not. He's going to be hesitant on some of it. He's going to kick tires on people. He's going to find out what the costs are, but he's going to make a hockey trade that he feels is right for himself, for the organization, for the team in this current moment in time. So I've got a lot of faith in that, and I like what I heard. This is where my personal opinion is going to come in. I don't think the Leafs are in too much of a urgency to change things defensively here right now. Let me explain why. If you disagree, let me know in the comments as well. I'm interested to read these ones because there should be a lot. I gave you some research, and I'm asking for an opinion here, but I think Benoit and Lagesson have come in and filled in pretty nicely in the time being. You also have to remember you've got Giordano injured, you've got Liljegren injured. They'll be coming back in at some point. And this D hasn't necessarily been the cause of all the problems. Now, I still hold true to the fact that I believe this Leafs team needs a top-end defenseman if they actually want to get over the hump. But in terms of staying above water right now, they're fine. So you're not in a panic situation of go get a guy right now, bring this guy in, put him in the lineup because we're screwed if we don't. You don't have that. I think Lagesson and Benoit have been decent fill-in pieces. Morgan Rielly's had a really strong start to the season, and hopefully here we can start to get a little bit more comfortability under ourselves with Connor Timmins and Jake McCabe. Those pieces kind of falling into line can really help even things out. Is this D good enough? No. Is it good enough when Liljegren and Giordano come back? No. But in order to not drown and just stay afloat until those guys get back, you're good. I think you're fine. Now, I do think that they're going to go out and acquire a defenseman. Brad Treliving has traditionally had very strong D-cores in Calgary. Not just strong in terms of they play well. Strong as in big, mean, physical, shot-blocking, minute-eating defensemen who can play tough matchups in big minutes. Brad Treliving built defense cores that were extremely successful in a tough, physical Western Conference. The Leafs have never really had a big, mean, physical D-core. I think Brad Treliving is going to make some moves to improve this team. I think it's going to come on the back end. And I think we're going to see a guy who can play top four and not be a guy who's being stretched into a top four, maybe Luke Schenn. That's not to knock Luke Schenn. He did an incredible job in his role, but he's technically not a top four guy. I think Treliving's going to go and get this team a top four guy. But Leafs fans, let me know in the comments below what you think about where this team is at, what happened today with Klingberg being out. I also want to do that homework. What is the difference between the Dubas playoff defense core and the Leafs defense core that started this season? How drastic is it? I want to know. Let me know in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on Benoit, Lagesson, and as always, if you haven't already, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. It does help support the show, help continue to grow everything. So thank you guys so much for your support. Look forward to seeing you guys real soon. Keep believing.